If every insect vanished tomorrow, the forest would still be there. It would still look green and standing, and it might even bloom. You would not get instant ruins. You would get a world that still looks alive, while reproduction is already failing inside the flowers. Adult plants do not need insects to stay upright tomorrow. The leaves are already there, and the roots are already in the ground. The wood, grass, and stems make it through the morning just fine. Insects do a quieter job. They move pollen, and that is what turns flowers into fruit and seeds. Roughly 87 to 90% of flowering plant species rely on animal pollination. So this is not some strange corner of plant life. This is most flowering plants outside your window. A flower can do everything a flower is supposed to do and still fail completely. It can open on time, look healthy, and smell great. But if no insect arrives, no pollen gets moved, and the flower never makes fruit or seed for the next generation. Some plants do have backup plans. Wind helps some, and self-pollination helps some. A few can spread by cloning themselves sideways. For most flowering plants, those are weak backups, not real replacements. They usually mean fewer seeds, worse seeds, or both. You would not see the damage from across a meadow. You would just see flowers. In Pakistan's Pothwar region, loquat orchards were tracked from 2006 to 2018. Over those years, flower-visiting insects fell almost 90%. Honeybees and bumblebees crashed even harder, down by roughly 93 to 97%. The trees still stood there. The branches still leafed out, and they still bloomed. But yield per tree fell 61%. The fruit got less sweet too. Then growers added caged honeybee colonies, and the harvest bounced back. So it was not bad weather, and it was not the soil acting up. The missing piece was insects moving pollen. A healthy-looking tree can already be failing. Apples show the same thing in a way that feels almost rude. Take pollinators away from gala apples, and you get barely half the normal fruit by harvest. Give those blossoms extra pollen by hand, and you suddenly get about 2/3 more fruit than usual. On individual flower clusters, some branches go from a proper crop to almost nothing. So insect loss does not hurt the tree first. It hurts what the tree produces. People hear this and say, fine, just use honeybees, put out more boxes, rent more hives, problem solved. It isn't enough because different flowers work best with different visitors. Some insects arrive at the right hour, some fit the flower better. Some carry more pollen on their bodies. Some move between plants in the right pattern instead of just poking around one tree. Wild insects do a huge part of the work. In Patagonia, apple orchards were tested with honeybees still present, but native bumblebees removed. Ripe fruit set fell by more than half. Farmer profit dropped more than twofold. Same orchard, same crop, and honeybees still on the job. Still not enough. Across 41 crop systems worldwide, wild insects gave about twice the fruit-setting benefit per visit that honeybees did. So piling up more hives does not replace vanished insects. The insects doing this job are different because the job itself is different from flower to flower. And orchards are the easier version of this problem because people notice when fruit goes missing from something they plan to sell. A wild landscape fails much more quietly because a meadow can still look full and healthy while seed output collapses. A shrub can stay green for years while almost no young plants replace it. A forest can keep all its adult trees and still be in trouble because forests also depend on replacement. Seedlings matter. Saplings matter. The next wave is supposed to be growing underneath. In temperate regions, about 78% of flowering plants rely on animal pollination. In tropical regions, it is about 94%. So the brightest, most crowded, and lush parts of Earth depend on insects even more than most people realize. And this stops being just a plant story very fast. Fruit and seeds are food right away. Birds eat them. Mammals eat them. Fish eat what drops into water. When fruit set falls and seed set falls,
Animals lose food before the plants themselves disappear. Now you get the global number. Across 1,174 plant species, a third made no seeds at all when pollinators were shut out. Half lost at least 80% of their fertility. So when pollinators disappear, the next landscape never arrives. Plenty of flowering plants stay standing, but they stop replacing themselves. New Zealand gives you the clearest version of that. On the mainland, native bird pollinators largely disappeared from many places after the late 1800s. One shrub, Rhabdothamnus solandri, still grew there. It still looked normal, but fruit set crashed compared with offshore islands that still had bellbirds and stitchbirds. Seed production per flower fell 84%. Juvenile plants per adult fell 55%. So the adults were still there, but there were fewer and fewer young plants coming up underneath them. That is what makes this so unsettling. The worst version is not a blackened wasteland. The worst version is a place you would still trust. A green hillside, a flowering hedge, a forest that looks fine in a photo. The honest answer is nobody knows the exact speed of the visible collapse. Nobody has removed insects from an entire planet and waited 30 years. Some crops would hold on for a while. Wheat, rice, and maize use wind, so they would protect part of human food. Some plants can self-pollinate, some can spread without seeds for a bit. But those are delays, not replacements. So if every insect vanished tomorrow, the world would not greet you with instant ruins. It would greet you with blossoms and green, and a landscape still standing there while it quietly stops making the next one. A living landscape is not just trees and flowers sitting there, it's seeds being made, fruit being filled, and young plants replacing old ones. And without insects, nature does not become empty first. It becomes a beautiful dead end.